My dad drained my college fund to start a business, without telling me. I still remember the moment I found out. One second, I was talking to my dad about the logistics of moving into my dorm, and the next, my entire future was gone. It wasn't some slow realization. It wasn't some official letter or an email from my college telling me I was out of money. No, it was just him, casually, offhand, like he was talking about the weather. "Oh, right, forgot to tell you. I borrowed the money from your college fund." I swear, I thought I misheard him. "What?" I asked, my mind still trying to catch up. He waved a hand like it was nothing. "Relax, it's not gone. I just needed it to get my new business off the ground." It took me a full 5 seconds to process that sentence. And when I did, my stomach twisted so hard I thought I was going to throw up. My college fund. The one I had been building up since childhood. The one we had talked about together for years. Gone. I gripped the edge of the kitchen table. "You borrowed it? What do you mean you borrowed it?" He sighed, like I was being dramatic. "I mean, I took it out. For my business. I'll make it all back." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Before that moment, college had been everything. I'd worked my ass off for this. I had been dreaming about college since middle school. Planning, researching, applying. My entire life had been about getting to this moment. And my dad? He'd been part of it. He'd been right there with me, helping me look at schools, talking about career paths, giving advice on applications. When I got accepted, he had smiled so wide, clapped me on the back, and told me how proud he was. He had promised me we had the money, that I would be able to focus on my studies, that I wouldn't have to stress about tuition or books or working too many hours while studying. He reassured me every step of the way. And the entire time, he had already taken the money. The fund I worked my whole life for. I wasn't some rich kid whose parents set up a college fund and never thought about it again. I had been adding to it myself since I was old enough to work. Babysitting, mowing lawns, cleaning gutters for neighbors, taking on part-time jobs in high school. Every spare dollar I made, I put into that fund. Because my parents had drilled it into me that education was the key to a better life. And now my dad was sitting across from me, shrugging it off like it was nothing. The casual bombshell that ruined everything. I forced my voice to stay calm. Okay, so how much did you take?" He had the nerve to laugh. All of it. Every cent." I could feel my heart hammering in my chest. "And when were you going to tell me?" He waved me off like I was overreacting. "I don't know. It's not like it's a big deal. I almost lost it right then and there. Not a big deal. Not a big deal." I had just lost my entire future, and he was acting like I had misplaced my car keys. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking. How am I supposed to pay for college now? He blinked at me, genuinely confused. "Just take out student loans. Just take out student loans." Like that was nothing. Like it was normal. Like I hadn't spent years working, saving, doing everything right to avoid exactly that. Like he hadn't stolen from me. I stared at him, my mouth dry. "You promised me," I said, barely above a whisper. "You promised the money was safe." And do you know what he said? He laughed. "You'll figure it out," he said, like this was a fun little life challenge. It's not the end of the world. It was the end of my world. I don't even remember the rest of the conversation. I think I stood up. I think I yelled. I might have even cried. But none of it mattered. Because his decision was final. The money was gone. And the worst part, he didn't even feel bad. There was no guilt. No regret. He acted like I was inconveniencing him by being upset. Like I was an idiot for thinking I'd actually get to use my own money for my own future. The sickening realization. I left the house in a daze. I don't even remember getting in my car. But I remember one thought, playing over and over in my head. He was never planning to tell me. He had sat there for months, talking with me about my future, smiling, nodding, acting like we were in this together. And the entire time, he knew. He knew he had already taken the money. He knew there was nothing left. And he was just waiting for me to find out on my own. Like it was no big deal. Like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. And now, I was completely screwed. The tuition deadline was in a few weeks. I didn't have time to get loans in place. I couldn't afford the school I had been planning for since I was a kid. I had to drop out before I even started. All because my dad decided that my future was less important than his stupid business idea. I thought that was the worst of it. I thought that was the end of my relationship with him. But I was wrong. He thought this was over. But it wasn't. A childhood of believing in him. When I was little, my dad was my hero. I believed every story he told, every promise he made. And God, he made a lot of promises. When I was 5, he told me we were going to be rich someday. When I was 8, he told me he had $1 million idea. When I was 10, he said he was going to buy us a house so big I could have a whole floor to myself. And when I was 12, he told me, "Your college fund is the most important thing. I'll never touch it." I believed him. I think I had to. The dreamer and the one who held everything together. My mom was different. She was practical, responsible, the kind of person who made sure bills got paid and food was on the table. But my dad? He was a dreamer. And at first, that didn't seem like a bad thing. He was the fun parent. The one who would come home with wild stories about the next big business he was getting into. The one who would tell me, "Don't settle for a boring life, kid. You've got to dream big." I thought it was inspiring. I thought he was just waiting for his big break. Because that's how he always framed it. This next investment is going to change everything. We're on the edge of something huge. You won't have to worry about anything, I promise. But it never happened. Every idea he chased turned to dust. Every big opportunity crashed before it ever got off the ground. And when that happened, it was never his fault. The business partner who screwed him over. The economy. Bad luck. But never him. And through it all, Mom was the one holding everything together. The first time he borrowed from me. I was 13 the first time he asked me for money. It wasn't much, just $20. He said he needed it for gas. I remember hesitating. Not because I didn't trust him, but because it felt weird. I was a kid. He was my dad. Shouldn't it be the other way around? But then he smiled at me, all charm and confidence, and said, "Don't worry. I'll pay you back this weekend." He didn't. When I asked about it a week later, he waved it off. "Oh, come on. It was $20. Don't be stingy." That was the first time I felt that little spark of doubt. But it was just $20. So, I let it go. The pattern begins. But then it happened again. And again. $50. $100. He always had an excuse. "I'll pay you back next week. Just this one time, kid. You know I'd do the same for you." And every time I asked for the money back, I was the bad guy. "Wow, you really don't trust me? You're being selfish. Come on, I raised you better than this." So, I started keeping my mouth shut. I started telling myself he would come through eventually, because that's what I had always believed. The college fund was supposed to be different. Through all of this, one thing never changed. He always talked about my college fund like it was sacred. He was the one who taught me to save. He was the one who told me, "Every extra dollar you make, put it in the fund. That way, you'll never have to struggle like we did." And I did. Every part-time job, every birthday check, every bit of money I could spare, I put it in the fund. Because I trusted him. I trusted that this, at least, was untouchable. The moment I started to doubt him. I remember one night when I was 16. My parents were arguing in the kitchen. Not the usual kind of argument. This one was hushed, urgent. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught pieces of it. "Mom, you're gambling with our future." "Dad, it's not gambling, it's an investment." "Mom, we can't afford this." I didn't know what they were fighting about, but I remember creeping back to my room, my stomach tight, feeling something I didn't want to feel. Doubt. Because what if my dad wasn't just unlucky? What if he was reckless? What if he was never going to figure it out? By the time I was 18, I should have known better. The signs were all there. But I still didn't believe he would actually take from me. Because the college fund wasn't just some extra money lying around. It wasn't some rainy day fund. It was my entire future. And even though he had disappointed me before, even though he had borrowed money without paying it back, I never thought he would do this. I never thought he would look me in the eye, talk to me about my college plans, celebrate my acceptance, all while knowing he had already stolen my chance to go. The truth hurts more when it comes from someone you love. People talk about betrayal like it's this sudden, shocking thing. But that's not how it feels when it's someone you love. When it's your own father. It's slower. Messier. It's every ignored red flag, every excuse you accepted, every lie you told yourself to keep trusting them. I didn't just lose my college fund that day. I lost the version of my dad I had been holding on to. I lost the belief that he was ever going to change. I lost the idea that he cared about me more than he cared about his own ego. And the worst part, he didn't even think he had done anything wrong. That's what broke me. Not just that he took the money, not just that he lied, but that he genuinely thought I should just accept it. that I should be grateful for the lesson, that I should be fine with working myself to death because of his choices. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't going to be able to fix this. I wasn't going to be able to change him. I wasn't going to be able to make him see what he had done, because he didn't want to see it. And that hurt more than anything else. And the worst part, it wasn't over yet. The immediate aftermath. The day after my dad casually admitted he had drained my college fund, I woke up still half convinced I had dreamed it. Because it didn't feel real. It didn't feel possible that someone could do something that devastating, then just go about their day like nothing had happened. But when I walked into the kitchen that morning, he was sitting at the table, drinking coffee, scrolling on his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. Like everything was fine. Like he hadn't just destroyed my future. I stood there, staring at him, waiting for something. An apology. An offer to fix things. Some acknowledgement of what he had done. But all he said was, "You should start looking at loan options today. You don't want to miss deadlines." Trying to salvage my future. I tried. I spent the entire day looking up student loans, trying to figure out if I could still make it to my dream school. But the numbers were horrifying. The loans would barely cover tuition, let alone living expenses. And I'd have to work full-time while studying just to survive. Even if I did it, even if I somehow managed to scrape by, I'd be graduating with a mountain of debt. The whole point of the college fund was to avoid this exact situation. And my dad had taken that from me. The college call that broke me. I called my college's financial aid office. I told them what happened, how I had the money, how it had been stolen from me by my own father. I don't know what I expected. Some kind of sympathy. A solution. But all I got was the same cold, professional response. "I'm sorry to hear that, but without proof of funds, we can't proceed with your enrollment." That was it. One moment, I was a student at my dream school. The next, I wasn't. Telling my mom. I don't know why I thought she didn't know. Maybe because she hadn't said anything. Maybe because I wanted to believe that if she had known, she would have stopped him. But when I told her, I saw it in her face. The way she looked away. The way she sighed like she had been dreading this moment. She knew. And she hadn't stopped him. That hurt almost as much as what he did. I couldn't even speak at first. I just stared at her, my whole body numb. "How could you let this happen?" Her voice was soft. "It wasn't my decision." That made me snap. It wasn't his decision either. It was my money. It was my life. And all she could say was, "I'm sorry." I didn't want sorry. I wanted her to fix it. But she just stood there, looking exhausted, and said, "Your father, he really believed this would work." I almost laughed. "You think that makes it better?" Confronting him and realizing the truth. I couldn't let it go. That night, I confronted him again. I walked straight into the living room where he was watching TV, stood in front of him, and said, "You need to fix this." He barely glanced at me. "I already told you, you'll figure it out." "No, I'm not going to figure it out. You stole from me. You need to fix this." He sighed dramatically, like I was being such a burden. "I can't just conjure money out of thin air." I could feel myself shaking. "Then sell your car. Sell your stuff. Get a second job. Do something." He scoffed. "I'm not selling my car. I need it for work." That was when it hit me. He never intended to fix this. He never even considered trying. He wasn't sorry. He didn't feel guilty. To him, this was already over. He had made his decision. And I was supposed to just accept it. The job I never wanted. That week, I started working full-time at a local diner. I didn't have another choice. If I couldn't go to school, I had to at least make money to support myself. It was humiliating. I had gone from planning my first semester at college to scrubbing plates and serving coffee to people who had futures. And my dad? He acted like nothing had changed. He still talked about his business like it was the greatest thing ever. He still spent hours online researching investments. He still had the nerve to give me life advice, while I came home exhausted from a double shift. And the worst part, I still wanted him to care. I still wanted him to look at me and see what he had done, but he never did. His business collapses, and he comes crawling back. It took 3 months for his brilliant business idea to crash. 3 months before he started missing payments. 3 months before the debt collectors started calling. 3 months before the reality he had been ignoring finally caught up to him. And guess who he turned to when it all went to hell? Me. "I need your help." He said it so casually, like we were talking about borrowing a cup of sugar. I didn't say anything at first. Just stared at him, waiting for him to realize how insane this was. But he didn't. He actually thought I was going to bail him out. He actually thought I still owed him something. You can take out a loan, he said. Just a small one. Just enough to keep things going. And that's when I finally snapped. The moment I let him go. I laughed. I laughed so hard I almost couldn't breathe. Because this was it. This was who he really was. A man who could steal his own child's future, watch them struggle, and still think they should save him. I took a deep breath, looked him in the eyes, and said the words that set me free. You already took everything from me. Figure it out yourself. And I walked away. I thought that was the end of it. I thought he'd finally hit rock bottom. But I was wrong. Because he still hadn't learned his lesson. The guilt trip begins. After I told my dad to figure it out himself, I expected him to get angry, to explode, to call me ungrateful. But he didn't. Instead, he switched tactics. The next morning, my mom sat me down at the kitchen table. She looked tired, sad, and I already knew what was coming before she even opened her mouth. He's your father. I let out a hollow laugh. That's all you've got. She sighed. I know he messed up, but he's in trouble. He's losing everything. I shrugged. Not my problem. She flinched, like I had slapped her. You don't mean that. I looked her dead in the eye. Yes. Ido. Because I did. I meant every word. For years, I had let him take from me my trust, my money, my future. He had stolen from his own son. And now, because his grand plan had fallen apart, I was supposed to just forgive and forget? No. Not this time. He starts burning bridges. At first, he tried to play the victim. He called every family member he could, spinning the story his way. He made me sound cold, selfish, ungrateful. He's letting me drown. I did everything for him, and this is how he repays me? He's my own son, and he won't even help me. At first, some people bought it. I got texts from relatives, some gentle, some furious. He's your father. Don't let money come between you. You'll regret this one day. How can you just abandon him? And every time, I had to bite my tongue. Because if I said the truth, if I told them that he had stolen from me, that I had to drop out of school because of him, that he had never even apologized, I would just sound like I was making excuses. And he knew that, because he had spent his whole life playing the victim. But then people started finding out the truth. At first, it was just my mom who knew the full story. Then a cousin found out. Then an uncle. And little by little, my dad's version of the story started falling apart. Because once people actually knew what he had done, they stopped defending him. The texts stopped coming. The calls slowed down. The people who had loaned him money before suddenly weren't picking up the phone, because they realized he wasn't the victim. He was the problem. And for the first time in his life, he had no one left to manipulate. The last desperate call. I thought that was it. I thought he would just fade away, finally forced to deal with the consequences of his own actions. But then one night, my phone rang. It was him. I stared at his name on the screen for a long time. Then, against my better judgment, I answered. His voice was quiet, tired, not angry, not demanding, just small. Hey kid. I didn't say anything. He sighed. I messed up. That was the closest thing to an apology I had ever gotten from him. But it wasn't enough, because I knew what was coming next. I need help. There it was, the real reason for the call. Not because he missed me, not because he wanted to make things right, but because he had nowhere else to go. He had burned every bridge. The final choice. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let myself feel everything. The betrayal, the anger, the years of being used, the lost future I had worked so hard for. And then I let it go. Not because I forgave him, but because I was done. I wasn't going to let him drag me down with him. I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life bailing him out, hoping he'd change, waiting for a real apology that was never going to come. So I exhaled, opened my eyes, and said the words that finally set me free. I can't help you. Silence. Then a bitter chuckle. I figured. And that was it. I hung up. I deleted his number. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. The consequences he never saw coming. I don't know exactly what happened to him after that. I heard bits and pieces. He lost the house, had to sell his car, started bouncing between cheap apartments. At one point, he tried starting another business. It failed. And then, nothing. I stopped hearing about him. And I stopped caring. But here's the thing. People always say you'll regret cutting off family. That one day, you'll wake up and wish you had done things differently. That hasn't happened. Not once. Because I finally understand something I should have realized a long time ago. Some people will never change. Some people will take and take and take until there's nothing left. And the only way to survive is to walk away. So, was I wrong for letting him lose everything? No, I was right, and I'd do it again.